Welcome back to the fifth and final episode of the Soapbox Top 5 Ways of Getting the Most Value Out of Your ServiceNow Environment. I'm Mark Chen, and today we have Paul Heath, co-founder and vice president of product marketing at Soapbox. We've got quite a bit to get through, so let's get after it. So hi Paul, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Good to be back.
Awesome. So if I'm a ServiceNow customer and I want to try to get Sophie into my environment, what are the usual issues and the questions that they have, or that I would have?
Yeah, look, so we've spent the last 4 episodes talking about Sophie and how it can bring value into a ServiceNow customer. And the burning issue that most people would have at this stage is, well, how do I do it? How much does it cost? What's the effort involved in implementation?
Right.
So we're going to cover those issues today. So after spending the last 2 years selling and implementing Sophie into ServiceNow customers, and prior to that 8 years implementing ServiceNow, we've identified a number of trends or 3 top questions or issues that come up when we're talking to customers about Sophie.
Right.
And if you will, they're the 3 myths that that exist in the marketplace that we want to try and bust today. So
we're doing some myth busting, are we,
We're
Paul?
absolutely doing some myth busting.
All right, so Paul, you've got a list going. I reckon you've got, 3 myths over there?
Yeah, so look, the top 3 myths that we run up against are, firstly, it's expensive. Secondly, we need a lot of data to get value out of AI. And thirdly, the implementation effort is expensive and time consuming, and you need specialist help to do it. So we're going to try and bust those 3 myths today.
Right, so they sound like big ones. All right, let's take the first one apart. Myth number 1, how much will Sophie cost me?
Look, Sophie will cost $15,000 as an annual subscription fee. That gives you all access to every aspect of the product we've talked about in the last few episodes. And the only additional price is a per interaction price. An interaction is a conversation that the customer's having with the virtual agent. And in that $15,000 base price, we include 1,000 interactions per month. And for most customers, that's fine. But if they do want to take on additional interactions because of volume, then it's essentially 50 cents per interaction. And if you compare that to what the typical industry average to handle a call by a service organisation is anywhere between $12 and $25. So if you consider that relative to 50 cents, it's a pretty attractive proposition.
Yeah, right. So for those, I guess for those of us who are in the industry, I mean, $15,000 a year, that really isn't a huge provisioning fee, is it?
Exactly, and it's really it's the value that Sophie can bring over and above that cost. That's really the key point. That if you consider how much savings can be made by not only the cost per call of deflecting as much as 20-30% of calls, which is not uncommon to the virtual agent at 50 cents an interaction. That's pretty profound. And then you add onto that the business productivity gains by resolving issues faster, which we're not even typically measuring from an ROI point of view.
So it sounds like you're trying to make Sophie affordable for ServiceNow customers regardless of their size.
That's right. If you look at what how ServiceNow prices their intelligent automation solution, which is typically a percentage of your annual contract value size, it really only is suitable for the very large scale ServiceNow customers. We want to make that technology easier to use and more accessible to any ServiceNow customer, irrespective of their size.
Okay, that sounds like a good myth busted right there. It's not expensive.
That's right. Shouldn't be an objection.
Awesome. All right, myth number 2. We hear a lot about AI with data being an issue. Like if you haven't got the data, the AI can't run it, can't run the system. Is that a thing?
Yeah, look, I mean, data is important in AI, absolutely. But the myth that you need a whole lot of data before you can get any value out of AI is just that, a myth. At least it is in the case of Sophie. Sophie can learn and start predicting based on as little as 5 records in the system. So the use case is, I've never seen this issue before, and the first time I record that issue, I get no prediction, but if I see that issue 3 or 4 times, then Sophie starts predicting. So we don't need tens of thousands of records in the system to start predicting. Obviously, the more data you have and the more examples of how people may ask for things, then the more robust that prediction is going to be.
Right.
But from a starting point, you need very little data.
Right.
And the other aspect of the system relating to data is the data doesn't need to be perfect. There's a view that you've got to have perfectly good quality data, and the reality is with our system we just ingest everything, and we use the what's called supervised learning, with the agents providing direct feedback to refine and curate those predictions. So if Sophie provides a prediction and it's not the right one, then the agent changes it or adjusts it totally or in part, and then we learn immediately from that, and the next time that comes up, we'll take on that learning.
Right. So I think we covered some of that in an earlier episode, and this is some of the Sophie's heuristic self-learning features that actually makes things a lot easier, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas other solutions, you do require vast amounts of data, and you need to painstakingly go through and select the data you're going to use for training.
Yeah.
You don't have that overhead, which kind of leads into the myth 3, which is what's the implementation effort of Sophie? And you can think of it in two factors, or two halves of the same solution. There's the Sophie Agent Assistant, and then there's the virtual agent. And on the Sophie Agent Assistant, it literally is set up in hours or minutes or hours, not weeks or months.
Okay.
Literally, what we do is we take for ServiceNow folks on the line, we take a ServiceNow change set, update set, and we load that into the system. That takes hardly any time at all. We then target the areas to train on. We ingest those records, and instantly, as soon as that training is finished, and typically takes minutes or hours depending on the volume of data, then Sophie is starting to predict and is immediately working.
Right.
On the virtual agent side, there's a bit more involved in really thinking through how a virtual agent should be designed. You need to think about the scope of what. There's probably two or three key aspects of it. You need to think about the scope of what a virtual agent knows about.
Right.
So does she know about IT issues? Does she know about HR issues or property services issues? What does she do when she doesn't know an answer? And what we typically recommend is default to a search and see if there's any artifacts in the system. We covered that in one of the previous episodes. And then if there's no search results that solve the problem, then offer to hand the caller off to a human agent via either a live chat session, handoff, or logging a call and someone will call you back type of scenario. So making sure that the agent is robust and rounded as far as scope and understanding, and also clearly setting expectations with customers about through marketing programs about what the virtual agent can and can't do is probably the number one critical area to focus on.
Right.
And then the other half of a virtual agent implementation is identifying the candidates for automation. Which are the processes, which are the kind of requests that are good candidates to teach Sophie how to respond to, and that's where it becomes probably more of a continuous activity rather than a once-off implementation.
Right.
We would typically have maybe a 5-day implementation to get those top 5 or 10 processes that we want to automate within
5 days. That's quick.
Yeah, so absolutely, rapid deployment, and then we kind of teach you how to fish, and we give you the tools, including a graphical designer, to be able to build out additional flows.
Right. Okay. So once you're up and running, Sophie will just sit in your system and continuously upgrade it and keep and continuously improve your predictions as you go.
Yeah, that's right. And the other aspect that we often get asked about is how do we improve? How do we know which are the next best candidates for improvement? And we provide dashboards and analytics to show people, these are the types of issues that are coming up that Sophie doesn't know about and is falling through to a search or to logging an issue with an agent. So we identify those calls, and then when we funnel them back into a process where the administrator would go back and say, okay, they're good candidates for automation, let's build out a conversational flow and release that into production.
Right. So I'm hearing that it's completely different from how the traditional way of doing it is. You have to stop and reprogram the system, and then so your implementation costs are actually become ongoing costs as opposed to what's happening with Sophie.
That's right. It becomes business as usual, and the skills required are not data scientists as you would typically expect in an AI type implementation. They're more BAs, business analysts who understand the particular areas of the business that you're trying to automate, be it HR or IT or facilities, and it's those people that engage with the business to understand how people, the types of things that people are asking for, how you best resolve those issues, what opportunities for automation, and then it's those people using the tools that we provide to build those flows, and maybe interacting with some ServiceNow folk to do some any kind of automation scripts that may be required, but it's very much driven by typically people that you have within your organisation in those BA roles already.
Fantastic. Well, that's it's almost a wrap up, aren't we? It's at 3 myths that we've busted today.
Yeah. Hopefully, people are sitting back thinking, this is not that hard as we may have initially thought. Not that expensive. Don't need a lot of data to get started, and implementation is relatively straightforward. And if anything, it's about ingesting ServiceNow or Sophie into your day-to-day operations for continuing to look for opportunities for improvement.
Right, that sounds pretty smart. Well, so if you're a ServiceNow customer and you're looking for a system of intelligence, which I guess is what we're pitching Sophie as, a system of intelligence that sits on top of your system of record, where do we go?
Look, as we've said in the previous episodes, that the easiest way to start is to get Sophie implemented or installed in one of your non-production ServiceNow environments. You can go to our website. There's an area for registering for a trial. Once we kind of get back to you on that, we will basically provision you up with a trial instance of Sophie, and then we'll give you the instructions of how to install that onto your non-production environment. As I said, you'll get the Service Agent Assistant up and running in literally minutes. You'll have a base virtual agent that delivers value out of the box, and then you'll have the tools to be able to model your own flows. Okay,
excellent. So the Soapbox website is www.soapbox.ai. Drop Paul an email, or a couple of forms in there that you can fill up. I think we've got a trial Sophie form in there as well.
Absolutely, and if people want to contact me directly, it's paul.heath@soapbox.ai, and we're happy to engage with people around either a demo of Sophie and ultimately a trial implementation on your non-production instances.
Excellent. Thanks, Paul, for that wrap-up. Thank you for watching all 5 episodes. If you haven't watched all 5 episodes, get onto the website. They're all there. And we'll see you in the next series.